agents of the unexplained. Grab your gear and let's journey into the mysterious world of cryptids and the paranormal. Get ready for an adventure into the unknown. Listen carefully as you're guided through the unexplained and cryptid phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality. Here is your host, Bill Rigby.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm excited about tonight because of the guest I got. Such a nice person, podcaster. He has a lot of knowledge about Dogman, Bigfoot, the whole 9 yards. But before we get started on that, I'd like to talk about our sponsor, Spiritual So Simple, the authentic metaphysical shop. It is located in Kentucky, in Ashland, Kentucky, of course. And she does awesome readings. She is an awesome person, number one. An awesome psychic medium. Sydney Stewart is her name. You can contact her. There's the number up on the page there. She would do you right, believe me. I've known her for a couple years now, and I got a lot of respect for this young lady. And she is internationally known. She do tele-reading over in Europe and all that. So check her out, folks. And the number one sponsor of them all, Dr. Pepper. You all know how I love my Dr. Pepper. But anyhow, that's how it is. And we got a couple people saying hello out there. And of course, Paranormal Fellowship is saying about how Mountain Dew is better than Dr. Pepper. Sit down, Sparky. Hello, Scott Walker. So now, let me bring my guest in. He is none other than Vic Condiff. And I apologize, Nick. I did spell your name wrong, brother.
Oh, that's all right. I've been called worse.
No. I can't believe that. You're too nice of a gentleman.
Well, thanks for saying that, but there are tons and tons of people who don't know me who think I'm a horrible guy, so I have been called worse.
But anyhow, and I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. It was a pleasure to be there. And I can honestly say, folks, that easy, soft-spoken way he's going is the way he does that podcast, too. He makes you feel so comfortable. And I like that. I like that a lot. So, Vic, I told you we let it flow whichever way our guest wants to go. So you can tell people about your podcast, the different things you've learned about Dogman, Bigfoot, or your next door neighbor. It doesn't matter.
Don't get me started on my next door neighbor now.
Oh, okay.
No, just messing around.
But so go ahead, start filling us in, buddy.
Well, I think about the best place to start is always at the beginning. People ask me all the time, oh, by the way, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I start talking about me, I just want to let you know there, Bill, I'm actually drinking a Dr. Pepper right now. It's a Dr. Pepper Cherry, 0 sugar cherry right now, but it's yes. Dr. Pepper.
Sparky, in your face, buddy.
I heard you saying that about Dr. Pepper, and I thought, wait a second now, I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper. And I'm not a pepper too. But
I am. Everybody knows.
Yeah, well, we're all a pepper.
Yeah.
So, but no, to tell you the story behind how I got into all this, back in 2007, 2008, I was a co-host on a Bigfoot specific podcast called Campfire Shadows. And the other host was Shane McMahon. He's passed since, but Yeah, that's how I got my feet wet in all this. And as I was hosting a show, our guests that night were Tim Kumbo Baker and Jim Bear Grant. Well, they
Oh,
came on and they
wow.
were talking about an outing they had gone on looking for Sasquatch the prior weekend, I think it was. And somebody in their group had seen what they called a dog-faced booger. And I knew what a booger was back then, but I didn't know what they were talking about when they said it was a dog-faced booger. So after the show, sometime after the show, I can't remember when, but I asked for more clarity. And then they told me they were talking about something called a Dogman. So I looked into the phenomenon and I thought, you know what? If you have a traumatic Sasquatch experience, it's not hard at all to find someone you can get help from to come to terms with it. But if you run into one of these Dogman things, who do you go to for help? So I thought, you know what? There's a real need here. Well,
Yep.
down the road, I put all the pieces in place to put dogmanencounters.com online. And I basically just fielded reports from dogman eyewitnesses all around
Mm,
the world through the website. Did that for about a year. And then after that year span, I brought the podcast online, Dogman Encounters Radio. And about a year after that, I brought Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio online and started airing weekly episodes for that. And then about 3-4 years ago, I aired the first episode of my second Bigfoot specific podcast called My Bigfoot Sighting. And then about a year after that, which was about maybe 2 years ago,
mm,
I brought a paranormal themed podcast on. We dealt with ghosts,
Yep.
anything other than Dogman or Sasquatch, we talked about it. I brought that online, but that show was basically on a permanent hiatus. And
Yeah.
then literally last week, I brought just a second Dogman show podcast online where it features fictional stories about dogmen. There are people who just literally can't get enough of the topic of dogmen.
Yep.
So, what better podcast to bring online than one that features fictional stories about them? Now, there's been a lot of people that are up in the air about, well, how can you do that? Because people are going to call into question, how can we trust the accounts that are featured on Dogman Encounters if you're making up fictional stories? Well, they're separated.
You very
I've
much
got
so.
definitely. I've got true stories, true encounters on Dogman Encounters, and then the fictional ones. Those are on Dogman Tales. I'm not going to mix the two. They're going to be segregated. And to say that you can't do both is like saying you can't have a Toyota Camry in your garage that you use to take to the store to get groceries if you have a 1-ton dually parked in the driveway you use to haul a fifth wheel or
Yep.
whatever. So, yeah,
Right.
you can definitely specialize and separate, but
Uh,
that's how it is.
well, I know several podcasters that do separate their shows. And so th- I don't get where people say that to you. I really don't. And to be honest, you know, I cover everything with my show. Anything cryptid, anything paranormal, UFOs. And that's why it's called the Agents of the Unexplained. But the thing is, you've been at this long enough, you know how to separate this. And that's why if someone asks you, well, how can you keep them separated? It's very easily. So I actually do believe you will do great with it because
Well,
there
thank you.
there is a lot of interest in Dogman, a lot more than there ever has been, and you know even Dogman going mainstream now. So, um, Scott Walker asked, "Will the Dogman look like a Labrador, a German Shepherd, or a Pit Bull if they are real, or a Rottweiler?" Uh,
Well, they are real, number one, Scott.
yeah,
And yeah, they don't look like any of those dogs. They look like they have a lot of different looks. They can look as unassuming as a timber wolf that's got the ability to stand up on his back legs, that unless it did that, you would have no idea that you're looking at a dog man. All the way up to some of them look monstrous, like the worst werewolf, most frightening looking werewolf out of your worst nightmare. So then everywhere in between that. So they have different looks, but yeah, none of them look like any of those dog species that you mentioned or anything. And I could literally put you into contact with thousands upon thousands of Dogman eyewitnesses who would definitively answer that question for you if they're real or not. Yeah, they definitely are, unfortunately.
I had a young man give me a report not more than 3/4 of a mile from my house. Sparky knows the area too. It's called off of Clark Street in Sharon. It crosses the Shenango River, and that kind of upset me knowing the Dogman's that close to my place, and we live in town. Very, very credible report. Have I ever seen a Dogman? No, not yet. And I don't know if I really want to, because, like you said, Vic, they come in all different shapes, basically, like a Bigfoot. You know, the hair colors are all. I heard different hair colors on the Dogman, like you do on the Bigfoot. That makes you wonder. You know, I'm trying to think of the right word to say with that. Make you wonder. All right, how many different species there is?
Yeah.
Hey, now, on the thousands of reports that you have received, how much in similarity are they?
Well, you'd be surprised how many similarities there are between them. It's really no different than talking with 4,000 people who've had direct interactions with a grizzly. I mean, there are certain things you'd expect, certain commonalities you would expect. I mean, time after time, you'd expect them to say when they're describing what they saw to you that the creature they saw had this hump on its back and the tips of its fur looked kind of silver tipped and things like that we know are guaranteed things that you'll see on a grizzly bear. Well, the same thing holds true with all these eyewitnesses I've spoken with about their Dogman encounters. There are commonalities, some I put out there, some I don't. Some I haven't put out there serve as a really good vetting tool to find out if someone actually did see one or if they're blowing smoke. Now, having said that, if they reported seeing a Dogman at a certain distance or further, there's only so much you can do to vet this eyewitness. But
right.
I mean, there have been plenty who have been right up in handshaking distance from these guys. And if they're that close, then there are going to be certain things you can ask them to find out if they actually did have that experience or not. So, I mean, to be like me asking you, does your brother have 2 ears or does he have 3? Well, that's oversimplified, but it is that simple. There are certain features that when you're that close, you're going to see them. You're going to notice them.
Yes.
And talking about type 3s, some people call them Dogmen. Some people call them Sasquatch. They're not canids, so they're technically not Dogmen, even though a lot of people in the South, when you tell them the term Dogman, that's what they think of, is a type 3 with the hominid-style legs. But, yeah, they're not canids. We just call them. Some people call them Dogmen, type 3 Dogmen. Some people call them type 3 Sasquatch. They're not Sasquatch either because they have claws on the tips of their fingers,
right,
which Sasquatch never have. They've also got every tooth in their head is sharp, which none of the Sasquatch you run into are going to have that either. So what I'm getting at is they're technically not Dogmen. They're technically not Sasquatch. That's just how some people know them. That's what they call them.
With the type 3, what are they then?
Couldn't tell you. That's $1 million question. I have no idea what they are, and I can't tell you what they are. Consequently, all I can do is tell you what they're not. They're not a canid. They're not a kind of Sasquatch. So really, that's all I can tell you on that. But there are things about them I can tell you. I can ask an eyewitness, okay, well, what did you notice about this? What did you notice about that? Asking questions where if they actually saw one, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, or they're going to mention what I'm thinking about without me steering them towards that. So yeah, there are vetting tools you can use, but again, only if the eyewitness saw that cryptid from a certain range or closer.
That's interesting. And that's a good way of doing it too.
Oh yeah.
That's a hell of a way of vetting because you're not letting all that information out. I never thought of that.
Oh, definitely. And there are other ways to vet guests too,
Right.
eyewitnesses too. There was a guy I get lied to. I wish I didn't have this problem, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who have tried to lie their way onto the show. And one of the most recent ones had the nerve to contact me and claim that he had been attacked by a dogman in Kentucky. He said that he and his buddies were riding horses up this long, gradual hill. He said he was the last one in line and he was just riding along, plodding along, and all of a sudden he looks over to his right and he said there was this huge dogman that came walking up alongside him on his horse and swiped him across his chest and knocked him off backwards. Well, I asked him, I said, if a dogman hit you hard enough across the chest like that to knock you off your horse backwards, that would have left some wounds. I said, did you have to go to the hospital? And he said, yes, I definitely did. Okay, I see. Well, did you ever take any pictures? Did the hospital give you any pictures of your wounds that you have in your possession? He said, yeah, I do. They're on my other phone. I said, okay, I see. Well, if you have pictures of those wounds, can I see those pictures? And he said, yeah. He said, I'll send those to you tomorrow. Well, after I had that conversation with this guy, this quote unquote eyewitness experiencer, I reached out to a lady who lives out in Colorado who knows a lot of people. She's well connected. Well, she happens to know two trauma surgeons who are well tenured. I think they've been doing it for probably 20, 30 years. Their specialty as trauma surgeons is treating victims of large predator attacks.
Okay.
Who better to send these pictures to get their professional opinions on the validity of these pictures? Because I've had people send me pictures of supposed wounds they've suffered from these guys that were just made up, just nonsense stuff they painted on their bodies and all this stuff to try to make it look like a wound.
Oh,
but
geez.
it wasn't. But yeah, so I asked this guy after I had that lined up. I sent this guy a message because I'm not about to just blindly send his pictures to these doctors without his blessing to do so. So I got back into contact with him. I said, hey, I've got two trauma surgeons lined up who are based in Colorado who specialize in treating victims of large predator attacks. They said they'd be more than willing, more than interested in taking a look at your photos to let me know their professional opinions on the validity of your pictures. Would it be okay after you send me those pictures tomorrow if I forward those pictures to them? He left skid marks, couldn't get out of there quick enough. He wanted no part of that. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
I mean, he was the next in line of a long line of people who have tried to lie their way onto the show. And speaking of that, it's hilarious. Some guy tried to leave a reply to one of the episodes of Dogman Encounters not long ago, where he had the nerve to say he used to love the show, but unfortunately he saw that there's definitive proof. Someone came forward and admitted that they were coerced to lie, to fabricate their story for the show and all this nonsense. And I'm laughing because that's the next lie in line. Just preposterous. I've never, ever asked anyone to fabricate a story. If I knew someone was lying about their experience, I would stonewall them. I'd never let them on. So, yeah, I mean, when you deal with this, Bill, as you know, you're going to have so many people that are just not well mentally that you have to deal with. It's just a part of this, unfortunately.
When I first started my podcast, I had two different guys on. And I usually don't cut them off, but the one I did says, well, we're running out of time, so we're going to end the show now. So it's I hated doing that, but you knew he was lying. And so I shut it down. I should have vetted them better. And that's the one that had me vetting people better and checking their stories because it's ridiculous. They just want their 15 minutes of fame.
Oh yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, that's a part of this.
Yep. And that's why, you know, I don't try to fabricate nothing on mine when I give what happened with me, because if you fabricate, it's going to come back and bite you. So I hate that, and I just want the truth out there.
Yeah, if you don't have the truth, you don't have anything.
Yeah, and a good friend of mine passed away a couple of years ago. Harassed me about Bigfoot and my sighting. Harassed me mercilessly. And finally, I looked at him the one day. I wasn't in that good of a mood. And I looked at him and says, "Why are you harassing me like this?" I says, "Number one, your brother-in-law's brother is one of the bigger Bigfoot researchers in this area." He goes, "Yeah, I harass you because I can." He goes, "But I don't let everyone know I believe because I'm not going to get harassed." I said, "But no, you'll harass me." "Real good, buddy." And he's laughing. And I laugh about it, man. But he just did it to agitate me. But other ones, they think I'm a crazy fool. But I don't care. I know what I saw, and especially as close as it was, like, as I explained on your podcast. I don't care if people believe me or not. I'm at that point.
Good man.
I speak at several different events, and I throw it out there. Um, sometimes I start my presentation with, "How many of you believe in dog or Bigfoot?" Right? And they go, hands are all going up, and I look, I go, "I don't." And they start looking at me like, "What? What the hell are you doing up here, Ned?" I go, "I know because I saw one at 15 feet away from me." And boom, they're all on the edge of the seat. Yeah. And that's the way it is. I'm not going to exaggerate. I used to believe, now I'm a knower. And that's how it goes.
That's good. That's a good way to put
Yeah.
it. And that you are.
Yeah. Now, what is one of the most scariest one given to you?
Wow, I've spoken with so many eyewitnesses over the years, and some of those experiences have been so frightening. Some of the most frightening ones have never aired on the show. Wow, that's really hard to say. One of the more frightening ones that I'm trying to think of a good one here. That's like asking, what do you have for dinner 2 weeks ago? There's so many things that have happened since then.
Right.
Wow, let's see. I've already talked about, when I've been on several shows before, one of the most frightening ones was the first Dogman report that was shared with me in 2007. That was a time when there was a man who had the house to himself this night. He lived right on the edge of the Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area, which is well known for Dogman activity.
Very.
And it's funny, an aside is, I had this one guy who wholeheartedly believes in Sasquatch go on to tell me how dogmen don't exist, and he laughed at people who say that dogmen exist in the Land Between the Lakes area, because if they were in the Land Between the Lakes area, how would they come and go without people seeing them? So I highlighted, okay, well, do you know how huge the Land Between the Lakes area is? And I just brought several other things to light, but anyway, there was no reasoning with him, so why bother? But anyway, back on target, he was home alone that night. He lived right on the edge of the land between the lakes. And his wife was playing cards with her friends, I guess. It was just him and his dog home alone. It was a 2-story home, and the way the home was set up, if you look down the stairs from the second floor hallway, you could see straight through the kitchen, and then you could see the door. There was a kitchen door in the back wall of the house. Well, they had a big dog, and because of that, they had a big dog door inside that kitchen door leading outside. Well, he had been upstairs laying in bed watching TV. The house was quiet except for his TV. He had been watching for a while, and all of a sudden he heard what he thought was some strange sound coming from downstairs, he thought. So he just dismissed it. He thought, okay, yeah, that's just the house settling or something's going on. No big deal. So he kept on watching, and then before too long, he heard this sound again. So he paused the TV and just froze and just was listening. Didn't hear anything. Oh, well, must be nothing. So he unpaused the TV and continued watching, unmuted the TV, and then continued watching whatever he was watching. Well, after a short period of time, he heard that strange sound again. So he muted the TV and was listening and didn't hear anything. So he started watching TV again, unmuted it. Well, it wasn't long when he heard that sound again and thought, okay, I'm going to get up and take a look. So he gets up, walks across the bedroom to the hallway, steps out into the hallway. At the top of the steps, he looks down. He's got that wide open view of right across the kitchen floor. He can see the kitchen door. To his horror, when he looked at that kitchen door, he could see there was, and he didn't know about Dogman back then, but he got an education because when he looked down the hallway across the floor of the kitchen, he saw this Dogman that was like halfway its shoulder, one shoulder and arm in its head or through that dog door. And its other shoulder was hitting on the top of the dog door or hitting on the door section that's directly above the dog door. It was too big to get through. But the whole thing that's so freaky about it, that is, why was the Dogman trying to come into his home? If it would have gotten into his home, it would have had total control of the whole house. What would it have done? So we'll never know that. But yeah, when it saw him, I think it just pulled its body out of the dog door and left. But yeah, something about that is just really creepy. This whole idea
that would have freaked me out. Lie.
It is freaky. An idea of it could be in the house and you wouldn't know it. What if it would have gotten through?
Exactly. My friend Val from Southwest PA goes, Vic, did you get many encounters where people hear a metallic sound?
Not really. Not really. I've had plenty of encounters where eyewitnesses heard like a knuckle popping sound as the Dogman stood up from 4 legs to 2, but not really much in the way of a metallic sound. I can't remember one eyewitness telling me that they heard a metallic sound.
Huh. Okay. Now, how many, is there a lot of reports that saying they're vicious they just looked at us and kept going? You know, what type of ratio have you had on that?
Well, see, that's the thing. About the biggest heat I catch from people who listen to Dogman encounters is this whole idea that these guys are wired to rip people apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. They listen to Missing 411. They think every person that's missing must have been taken from wherever they were by a Dogman. And I always
Bigfoot, Dogman or Bigfoot. That's what I caught all the time with this Missing 411.
That's what they say.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not them falling into abandoned wells or anything like that. So it's got to be a cryptid that did that. And a lot of them, they quite possibly might have been taken by cryptids. But my whole thing is I try to explain to them, and I don't waste that much effort doing so because most of those people have their minds made up already. But if I do take time to try and explain how it really is to them, I'll let them know Look, you're talking to a guy who's literally spoken with thousands upon thousands of dogman eyewitnesses who were caught dead to rights by these things, but allowed to leave without a single scratch, without a single hair in their heads being harmed. If these things were wired to rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself, it'd be one thing if I only spoke with 5 or 10 people who have had encounters with these things where the dogmen could have done that to them. But that's not the case. I mean, I've literally spoken with thousands
Right.
upon thousands of people who were in very compromising circumstances where the dogman could have done anything it wanted to do to them. But again, they
That's
left
why
the
I asked
experience
that.
without any harm.
That's
So
why
that
I
right
asked this
there,
one, because the report I took, it looked over at the young man, and he's walking down that trail to go to his fishing hole along the river. He has yet to go back there because of it, but it looked over at him, then crossed the trail, went into that patch of woods, and he don't know which way it went because he ran back out of there. He don't know if it was walked the way he was going or went upriver. So he left. Um,
and he
and it
never
just
would have
let him
made it
go.
out of there if that dogman actually wanted
Yeah,
to
exactly.
harm him.
Exactly. And I asked him, I says, did it get off any strange vibes, mean vibes, or anything? He says, no, I did. I went, what do you mean? He says, I put the fear of God in myself and got out of there. And I went, okay,
Yeah,
I understand where you're going.
that's how it normally goes.
Yeah, I know. I would have done the same. I did
I
that
use
with that Bigfoot sighting. I'm out.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
I use this example to explain my point. If you took the best high school football team in the country and had them play the Pittsburgh Steelers on any football field 100 times, you tell me, I don't care if it's raining, snowing, 100 degrees out, nice out, I don't care what the conditions are, where the football field is. If you had that game played 100 times, you tell me, Bill, how many times would that best, quote unquote, best high school football team ever beat the Pittsburgh Steelers if they played 100 games like that?
That's it.
0.
Yeah, that's it right there.
They'd never win. The best
Yep.
high school football team would never win. And why is that? Because they are so grossly outclassed in every aspect.
Yep.
There's no way over the course of a whole football game that enough circumstances could align themselves to allow that high school football team to have a chance at winning against the Steelers. Well, the same thing holds true when you have a dogman encounter with one of these things, especially in the woods. These things are so big, fast, strong. They have such formidable weaponry. I mean, they know the woods so much better than you ever will. You have no chance. If they're actually out to get you and harm you, you have no chance at getting away. No chance at all. And the fact that there are thousands upon thousands of people I've spoken with who were caught dead to rights but allowed to leave without a single scratch or any harm, that right there tells me definitively that these guys as a whole are not wired to rip us apart as soon as the opportunity presents itself. Now, when I say that, you're going to have some people who say, well, Vic Condiff says that dogmen are safe to be around. I'm never going to say these guys are safe to be around because you name the critter out there that never has any deviant examples. There are deviant dogs, horses, pigs, camels, goats, cows, you name it, that will kill you if the opportunity presents itself. So why should Sasquatch be different? Why should dogmen be different? So yeah, I'll never say these things are safe to be around. I'll never say that dogmen never hurt people or kill people. I'll never say that for that reason. But as far as these guys earning the reputation for being so dangerous, all of them being so dangerous and wanting to rip us apart as soon as that opportunity presents itself, that's nonsense for the reasons I just laid out.
And that's what I tell people, like with the Bigfoot. They say what you want, believe what you want, but here, let me throw this at you. 95% of the reports that has been given to people, including myself, Sparky even got them. Hundreds of researchers who got these reports. 95 to 98%, they were passive. They just went their own way. Some did bluff charge, and they get them out of the area. Possible killings. So it's kind of, I'm not saying they're all friendly, like you're saying Dogman ain't, but you got to use common sense and be where you're in their house when you're in the woods. You're on their territory, and if you interrupt a hunt or get between a parent and a juvenile, yeah, they're probably gonna get mean. But for the most part, they're not. Bonnie, I wonder why you're having a hard time making out what we're talking. But the thing is we got to have common sense when we're out there in these situations. And granted, fear will take over, but still use common sense. And Val asked, on that note, your opinion on the alleged LBL incident in the 80s. What do you think?
Well, from everything that's out there, everything involved, considered, I think it actually did happen. Now, having said that, let me qualify that. There was a guy who recently came out and claimed to have been there also when this happened, and I think he's a complete charlatan. I really do. I've got this policy on my show, on Dogman Encounters, on any of my shows, where I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. If I think they might be lying, but I've never caught them in a lie, then I'd much rather risk playing the fool, having them lie to me and lie the way onto the show, than run the risk of stonewalling a bona fide eyewitness who actually did have an encounter. But due to how they told me about the encounter, for whatever reason, I mistakenly thought they were lying when they weren't. I mean, we've all had times in our lives where people told us things that happened to them that you think, yeah, that didn't happen, when in fact it did. But you thought that they were lying about it because of the way they said this or the way they said that. But that doesn't make it a lie. It just means that it's how they delivered it to you and you mistakenly read them wrong. So yeah, that's why I would much rather take the risk of being made a fool and having someone fool me and come on the show and share an experience that never actually happened than to stonewall someone who actually did have an encounter.
Yeah.
But due to me reading them wrong for whatever reason, I mistakenly think they're lying to me. So that's why I have that policy on that.
Well, there's the thing too. I had this lady on, and as she started about her experiences, I'm sitting there thinking, oh God, I screwed up here. She's just a nutcase. Well, she was so worked up about what was happening, and she started in the middle of the story, and I had to backtrack and go forward, and I started putting this stuff together about 3/4 of the way through the show, and then I went, you know what? Let's stop right here. And she stopped. I says, I'm going to tell you something. I do understand what you're saying now. I'm totally confused at first because you started in the middle. She said, I'm sorry, I'm all worked up. me and her and her husband all became good friends, and they're from New Jersey, and they made their trips over this way to research over here and that. But uh, with that experience she was having, it was like, oh, she's a nutcase. And then when we were getting closer to the end of the show, everything was coming together, and it was like, whoa, this is awesome. So there's times you think you're totally wrong, like you were saying, read the person wrong in the whole 9 yards, but then it was legit. So,
Oh yeah, definitely happens.
yeah,
To get back on that whole point about the LBL incident, the reason why I absolutely do not believe that guy who claimed to have been there is back to that whole fool me once thing, fooey on me. I'm sorry, fooey on you. Fool me twice, fooey on me. He went on a podcast after he stepped forward into the limelight to claim that he was there when that incident went down. And when he was on this podcast, he actually had the nerve to try and call me a liar and say all these bad things about me, when in fact I had never spoken with him ever. So that right there told me that he was just a charlatan. He was full of it. So at that point, I knew nothing that he said was I going to believe. And there are a lot of things about what he said too, where there are holes in his story, in my opinion. But to answer your question, to land the plane, do I believe that the LBL murder, or actually murders, there were two that supposedly happened. Do I believe they happened? Yeah, I do believe they happened.
Do you believe they were Dogman?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's I do too. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of evidence was left there that helped point toward Dogman attack. That's I want to go there, but I'd like to meet up with Martin Groves there, but he's not doing so well. I got respect for Martin. I wanted to pick his brain about the LBL too, and his sightings and what goes on down that way, since he does a lot of research there. I've been studying more and more on Dogman, and it still kind of freaks me out. And do you think, this keeps going through my head, do you think, are they like Anubis from the pyramid times? Or are they totally different?
I don't understand when you ask, are they like Anubis? I'm not sure what you mean.
The Anubis was the dog warriors for guarding the pyramids and back in Egyptian time and all that.
Well, Anubis was supposed to be the guardian to the underworld, but there's a cynocephali who are supposed to be a warrior species that basically had the bodies of men that looked like men, but had wolf-type heads. So, yeah, both Anubis and the cynocephali were depicted in hieroglyphs and other drawings and all, the hieroglyphs for Anubis on pyramids, for example, and depictions for the cynocephali and books or whatever. They're always depicted as having hominid-style legs and the bodies of men, not the bodies like a true canine-type dogman has, like the one that's in the picture on my avatar on the screen here. This one, canine-type dogmen have hocks instead of ankles. They have stifled joints instead of knees, basically.
Right.
But, well, a combination, something that looks like a cross between the knee and a stifled joint. But Yeah, Anubis is always depicted as having hominid-style legs like a person. The same thing is true with the cynocephali, so there's definitely a difference. Now, type 3 dogmen, they have legs like Anubis was depicted as having, and legs like what the cynocephali were as well. Is there a crossover there? I don't know. I'm not that sure about that, but I have serious doubts about that because Anubis isn't depicted as having fur from what I can gather from looking at the hieroglyphs and the cynocephali. I don't know if their bodies were supposed to be fur covered or not. I really don't know.
Yeah, the hieroglyphics didn't really show most of that. Um, Makes it very interesting. And for the non-believers of the Dogman, it the ones that still try to say that the P&G film of Patty is fake. Uh, I use a lot of time-oriented evidence, like for Patty, that's they say, well, her walk can be duplicated. Her, the swinging of her arms, and I went very much so. It could be, but number one, 1967, they did not have a costume maker that can make a costume so real. Number one. Number two, they did not allow to show female organs on ladies. Hell, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Taylor Moore slept in single beds back then for their TV show. So why would Patty's breast be swaying in the breeze in 1967? Censors would have covered that up. Yeah. So some of the old reports, the Times and that, you got to throw that in there. And I try to get that time sensitive stuff and put in with the reports. Like I took a report happened up north of us about 25 miles, a Bigfoot sighting. And they tell me how it crossed the road, the whole 9 yards. And she was coming back from skating in February with her cousins. And where it crossed the road is right near the Tennessee pipeline up here. And they went home and told her parents. Her dad said, no, you don't know what you're saying. And don't talk about it with anybody. Well, she talked to the neighbor behind them that was a farmer. He said, yeah, I saw him 5 times, but people think I'm crazy. I go, okay. When did this actually happen? 1962. 5 years before Patty. And that, I'm like, whoa. And she described it very, very detailed. But like I said, it was in February, snow on the ground, dark hair, definitely very visible. And I don't know if they were ice skating or roller skating. I'm writing everything down, and it's like, okay, what the heck is this? What's going on here? But back then, they weren't allowed to talk about stuff like that, especially in Pennsylvania, where all Bigfoot don't exist. And people start believing they're just out west, the Northwest, or up in Canada. They're not here. Guess what, folks? They were here way back when, even with the Native American time. What's the oldest report that you have gotten, Vic?
The oldest report? Well,
Yeah.
I've spoken with tons and tons of people who've had encounters 40, 50 years ago. So yeah, that's that. But the oldest Dogman report, the first documented Dogman encounter happened in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan. So you've got these people who ask when they try to debunk the existence of these guys to say, well, if they actually are real, then why weren't there any encounters until just recently? Well, that's nonsense. The first documented encounter was back in 1887. And documentation was literally in its infancy back then. Who knows how long these guys go back? They might even predate us. It's hard to say, but they've been with us for a long time.
Right. And that's the thing, they didn't just appear. And Mr. Duffy, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. That new show is a bunch of storytelling, but it won't muddy the waters because he's keeping them separate.
Unfortunately, Bill, Mr. Duffy's a miscreant that, unfortunately, like a bad penny, he tends to pop up trying to cause trouble for the most part. But I guess I just try to ignore the guy because, yeah, he just stirs up trouble.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the info. That's the thing, we
in that comment you just highlighted where he's saying, well, I thought he said that the new show's not going to be on YouTube. Well, he's right. I did say it's not going to be on YouTube, and it's not on YouTube. The new show, Dogman Tales, is only available in podcast format. That's one of the problems with people like Mr. Duffy. He gets all these facts twisted, and then he thinks that I'm lying, and it causes just nothing but trouble.
I got that taken care of right now. There. No, we're not going to let that happen on my show.
Well, it's appreciated.
And my buddy Sparky, Paranormal Fellowship. So, what is the difference between Dogman encounters and werewolf stories?
Well, I don't know if werewolves are a reality. I don't know if werewolves definitely exist or not. A werewolf, and people ask me this all the time, what's the difference between a dogman and a werewolf? Well, a dogman looks the way it does 24/7, 365. A werewolf, if they're real, would be a person who somehow has the ability to magically transform from the state of a human being over to what we all know as a werewolf, that monstrous form that basically looks the same way a dogman can look. It's a much bigger leap to believe that that's a possibility than it is to believe that you have dogmen out there running around that look the way they do 24/7 and don't rely on magic to transform or anything like that. Now, let me qualify that. Dogmen do a lot of things that they wouldn't be able to do if they didn't have certain special abilities. So I do think there is something to them that allows them to do things that basically could be considered supernatural. Are they all supernatural? Maybe some dogmen are supernatural beings with the accompanying abilities. Others, maybe they're not. Maybe they are just, the other ones are just flesh and blood with no special abilities at all. I really don't know. But yeah, it's a much bigger leap to believe that werewolves are real and have the ability to transform from that of a human to that state than it is to believe, like I said, that you've got things out there that look the way they do all the time.
Right. So, in other words, like Sparky says, like a shapeshifter.
That's right.
So, we've heard that before on Dogman and Bigfoot and other cryptids. Yeah. Another one, Bigfoot Truth. We're talking stuff. And I believe that's Mr. Duffy again.
Yep, probably is.
The thing is, I'm not going to have people come in here and start crap. I don't believe in it. I see where you do have some bad following, like you talked about in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I recently, and I appreciate that. I really do. I
Yeah.
recently went on a podcast and I called myself being nice going on that podcast. It's not like I have a lack of work to do. I went on that podcast and the host allowed people to post things that were attacking me and everything, lies attacking me and everything. And I'm thinking, well, why would you do that? I mean, I'm trying to help you by coming on your podcast and you turn right around and it's T-ball. Anybody can sling insults, especially ones that aren't true about me.
Yeah.
I thought, what in the world? So yeah, didn't really appreciate that.
Well, if they can ask serious, straight up questions and not badmouth the guest, they're welcome to stay. But they start the bad mouthing and boom, they're gone. Okay, well, it's 4 minutes to 8, and I usually throw up a couple things halfway through, and I didn't. So we still got a little bit of time here. The thing is, I know Bigfoot's real. I've had people say Bigfoot and Dogman are related. I don't believe that. They say mistaken because Bigfoot has a longer nose. What about the ears on top of the head where Bigfoot don't have it? So how do you explain that? You know, I'm sorry. Dogman is a different cryptid altogether. Is it supernatural? Does it go through portals and all that? We don't know none of that stuff yet. You know, like you said, the reports go back into the 1800s, but people really didn't start studying them except for the last 20 years that I know of studying it hard and trying to get all the evidence they can, even though the reports have been there for years. And Dogman's starting to become mainstream like Bigfoot. So, and of course, we're going to have these people out there with their AI and everything else that's going to be attacking it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a given there.
Yeah.
And talking about the anatomy, the differences in anatomy. I mean, look at the leg structure of a canine type Dogman compared to a Sasquatch.
Yep.
That's not just a little variation and all. You're not going to have Sasquatch. You normally have hominid style legs with knees and ankles. You're not going to have any situation where a Sasquatch baby is going to be born and, oh, look, it's got hocks instead of ankles. It's got stifle joints instead of knees. Yeah, you might have a baby where the mother Sasquatch almost always has dark brown fur covered babies, and maybe you might have a baby that's born that's blonde. Well, that's a slight variation that can happen, but a wild variation like having hocks instead of ankles, stifle joints like a horse or dog instead of knees, that's never going to be a variation that's going to happen.
Right. You're 100% right. Some of the presentation I put up about the paranormal Bigfoot. What I saw, I believe, is flesh and blood. Like I said, I believe. I'm very open-minded to they could be interdimensional. They could be aliens. Because we really don't know. I know what I saw, and it looked flesh and blood. I didn't ask for a blood sample at that point. So And like I said, Dogman is just now getting to be mainstream. And there is so much more to learn on it. And Sparky got another good question. Have you ever had any stories told to you about Bigfoot and Dogman fighting to chase the other out of an area?
I have heard stories about that happening, but I can't really recall the details of any. But then again, I speak with so many eyewitnesses, it's hard to keep a lot of this straight. But yeah, there have been people who have reported seeing that. It seems like they normally mix like oil and water. With that in mind, I've had several people tell me over the years that they have Sasquatch like behind their properties or whatever, and they might have dog men or a dog man in the area as well, but they've told me about like a creek or a little stream that seems to be a divider between the territory of a dog man, or where they've seen dogmen plural from time to time in the Sasquatch's area. So they normally don't mix, it would seem, but I've also had credible eyewitnesses report seeing these guys together. So there's no rhyme nor reason when it comes to that.
Yeah, because we're still in the infancy of studying these things, both Bigfoot and Dogman. And I do believe you got to start thinking outside the box when you're researching them, include Dogman and Bigfoot. Got to think outside the box. You got to try different things, and see what works. So you get to study. I sure in the heck ain't going to put a leash on a Dogman and follow it around. Ain't no way. I don't think anyone could, as big as they are.
No, definitely not.
So, we got to have someone that's willing to track one and follow it, just to see where they're going, what they're doing. But I'll guarantee you, they're going to know you're there following them, because their sense is anything like a dog, they'll know it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that could make them get aggressive.
One thing I've noticed about these guys is if you try to study them, sometimes they'll try to flip the script and study you. There was a dogman eyewitness who contacted me, freaked out because the dogman he had been investigating followed him home. Vic, you've got to help me. This dogman I was investigating followed me home, and now he knows where I live, and he won't leave me alone. He keeps coming around. Help. Well, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. How do you get rid of him?
When he wants to leave.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And that...
Bill, that's one of...
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
And that's one of the things I tell people. And be careful, because you can bring them home with you, especially you're researching close to your own place.
Oh, definitely. That's one of the things that gets me. It's almost like an in thing now to want to go out and research dogmen. Wouldn't that be neat to go out and research them, because people seek that creep factor? There have been people contacting me wanting to go out and research these things that they don't really have any business getting off their couch and stepping outside, period. I mean, for more reasons than one, Bill. I mean, there are a lot of other hazards out there that you can run into, and some of these people want to go out alone. Well, a lot of these people, they don't know the woods. I mean, who's to say that they're going to have the wherewithal to realize that when they're going deep into the woods looking for these guys and they come across an abandoned homestead, they won't know to watch out for hidden wells that they could fall into. And once they've fallen into the well, if they're alone, how are they going to get out if they can't get a cell signal? So
exactly.
I mean, there's so many hazards, and just above and beyond running across the wrong dog man. So I just cringe when I hear about that.
I've gone out one certain area at night researching by myself. I've done it during the daytime too. Bigfoot, not Dogman. Um, I'm fairly confident there's a Dogman around somewhere in that stretch of area. I'm researching Bigfoot that's known to be in there too. Um, I got to say this though, Sparky, he will not leave if you give him a Dr. Pepper. He'd try to move in with you, share your refrigerator, the whole 9 yards. Do not share Dr. Pepper with a dog man. Give him a Slim Jim. Let him snap into one of those. Sparky goes, give him some Dr. Pepper. He will leave. No, he'll hang. But no, seriously. Yeah, that's the thing. You got to be careful how you do your research. You got to know the area. If you're going out at night, that would be the first time in that area, or be with someone that knows that area. Now, don't be a stupid fool. And that's what it comes down to.
Oh, definitely. And I really do think that if you're going to go out looking for one of these guys, period, you should have at least a certain amount of acumen when it comes to the woods, because you're never going to know. It's entirely possible if you head deep into the woods, especially, it's entirely possible that you will become separated from your group. It's entirely possible that you will be put in a situation where you're going to need to have a certain knowledge of the woods to be able to get home safely. So yeah, don't just decide one day that, hey, it would be really neat to go out and look for these things and not have a certain amount of knowledge in your toolbox.
Well, that's true, but something they got to remember too. All right, you've been in the woods daytime over and over again. You're going in at night. Everything's different at night. It don't look the same. You think you're going in the one direction, and you veer around a tree, you end up in a different direction. It don't look the same at night as it does daytime. I can I can vouch for that one big time, because a few times that I went in one area a lot and then go in that one night and I'm lost. It's like, where am I? I don't, because it's totally different at night because of the darkness.
Oh, sure. And look at all these experienced coon hunters. That's a perfect example. One of the things that experienced coon hunters back in the day would do when they would walk up to a tree where their dogs are baying, they would set a lantern down before they approached the tree.
Yep.
They would get maybe within 100 feet of the tree or so. They would put their lantern down and then walk up to the tree, because after you walk around that tree so many times looking up for a coon in the tree, it's so easy to get turned around. And we're talking about people who know the woods inside and out like the backs of their hands. People who have hunted these big woods for who knows how long, and they still do that to prevent themselves from getting lost. So if that's the case with them, then if you don't know anything about the woods at all, that should tell you right there everything you need to know about how easy it is to get lost and get into trouble.
Well, when I used to live in Indiana County, Pennsylvania, the one friend of mine had me put my stand up on top of the one mountain. He says, we got to take it way back in and put it down there, and we'll set it up at the top of the V. He says, always get a deer in there. And I did. Every time I hunted it, I brought a deer out. But the one day, it rained pretty hard overnight. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, fog start rolling in. By 9 o'clock, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I can't see nothing to shoot it. So I ain't taking a chance of hunter walking past me. and just shoot it because I can't tell. I get down, I'm walking up the trail out, and I missed my turn. I ended up on the power line. And I'm like, whoa, how did I get up here? I didn't go that far, but I did. So I had to make the left and walk on out the power lines, hit the open field, make a right. At least I knew these things from hunting in there all that time. But yeah, I missed my turn in the fog, and it was so thick. So it that could happen during the day while you're out researching. Or even at nighttime, a little bit of fog comes through with the darkness. You're going to get turned around. And Danny, glad to see you make it with us finally. Running late, brother. Running late. My buddy Danny from West Virginia. But the thing too, Vic, when you get these crazy fools that want to finally get off the couch and go researching, what do you tell them?
I tell them don't do that, and I lay out some of the reasons, but in almost every case, they don't want to hear any part of that. They want to continue to put themselves in a position where they can head out. It's really frustrating, and even people who might know a thing or two about the woods, I try to talk them out of going out and trying to research dogmen. It's really a shame, but what comes to mind with this conversation, I had an eyewitness who came on the show, and he was on one of the most popular episodes of the show ever. Well, about a year after he recorded that show with me, that episode with me, he contacted me out of the blue wanting me to tell him where he could go to have a very good chance of having another encounter. And I told him I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to put you in a position to have another dogman encounter because there's no guarantee how it's going to play out. So, yeah, I can appreciate you wanting to know more about these guys, and you've got this itch that you want to have another experience, but it's not going to be at my hands. I'm not going to do that. So when I did that, unfortunately, I was a bad guy, and he unfriended me, and next thing you know, I was the worst person in the world. But that just comes along with doing what I do.
Yes, you use common sense where they don't, and that's the thing. My sighting was at Salt Fork. Everybody goes to Salt Fork. They're tramping through the woods. Not me, not anymore. I'll go a little bit into the woods, sit my butt down, and wait. If they're there, they'll come watch us. And that's, you can sense when they're there. Usually, not just sensing, but you can hear the movements and stuff like that. And have I actually seen another one? It's a possibility. I was out with Sparky and Jamie King. And it's possible I did see another one, but I'm not sure. Up into the woods there, they kept peeking around a tree. And even the picture wasn't clear enough, so I got rid of the picture I took of it. But compared it to when it was still hiding behind the tree, then it would pick its head part way around. I got a picture with, you couldn't see the head there, then you could, it really blurry that where the head was at to compare it. And so it's a very good possibility. That's the thing. And Danny goes, no matter where you go, be careful. Know your area and look around and leave markers if needed to at least know uphill or down. And Danny's 110% right. His mom used to make him take markers out when he went and played in the woods of West Virginia. No, I'm joking, Danny. But yeah, seriously. So, uh, and yeah, Sparky had that 40-pound rock thrown at him, that area. Um, we know it was thrown because it couldn't roll down the hill there. Um, Danny, you're not right. uh, so he added to it. He goes, "Yes, sir. I would even fall asleep out there." I believe he would have. But that's the thing. You got to have patience. You got to know your area and know what you're looking for. And just to send a person out, oh, this is a really good area. Yeah, Salt Fork's a really good area for Bigfoot reports and experiences. And now, I'm not telling you exactly where to go because there is a lot of sightings there. There's a lot of activity there. Some is imagination. I ain't going to deny that one because you got someone that wants to see a Bigfoot so bad they got an imagination. The same with a Dogman. Their imagination starts running wild. So the people got to be kept in check. Is the way I'm going to put it. And there's times at Salt Fork I had no activity. Because I've gone back there several times, and it's a hit and miss thing. So my other research area in Butler County, well, actually Armstrong County, right on the line there, is a little over an hour from my home here. I didn't have any activity the first 5 times I was there. The 6th time I did. I had people come up to me because it's a 200-acre hunting camp. I had people come up to me and say, "Yeah, well, we was camping out, and a Bigfoot went down toward the creek, cut right through camp. I got out of the cabin to take a leak, and there it was. And it just totally ignored me and went down through the creek." I said, "Did you follow it?" "No, I wasn't following. I didn't even finish going outside the little cabin and to take a leak. I held it till daylight." It's like, okay. But yeah, you don't know. You got to be careful. You got to be observant, and you got to know your area, like Danny does his. But anyhow, it's about 20 after 8, Vic. You still there?
Oh yeah, I sure
okay.
am.
Okay. It's about 20 after 8. I see it. We're going to get on out of here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're going to do the outro. Vic, stick around for 1 minute afterwards. Thank you all for jumping in here. We appreciate you all. I will talk to you all later, and I'll try to be on more, folks. As some of you know, my wife has been having she had a mini stroke, and I've been helping her more, and kind of staying off Facebook a lot to help her. But she's getting stronger. She's getting better. It's just time consuming. So with that being said, you guys have a nice week. what's left of it. Have a beautiful weekend if it doesn't rain. And I will catch you all soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Agents of the Unexplained. Please visit our website at agentsoftheunexplained.net for unique paranormal merchandise like t-shirts, books, and coffee mugs. Join our Facebook group and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more thrilling content. Until next time, keep questioning the unexplainable.